You just finished lunch. A sandwich, maybe some chips, a soda. You lean back, full and satisfied. But here's a thought that might ruin your digestion. For 99.9% of human existence, that meal you just ate didn't exist. Not the bread. Not the cheese. Definitely not the soda. So what was on the menu for your ancestors? What did they actually eat, day after day, for millions of years before supermarkets and refrigerators? The answer is far stranger than you think. You probably imagine cavemen dragging home a mammoth leg and roasting it over a fire. That's what the movies show. A big hunk of meat and a lot of grunting. But the real story of the human diet is not about one food. It's about total dependence. It's about survival on a planet that didn't care if you lived or died. And it's about a single food group that made everything else possible. Without it, you wouldn't be reading this right now. Without it, your brain wouldn't exist. So put down your phone. Stop scrolling. And think about this. What was the one thing your ancestors could not live without? Let's start with the biggest myth. The hunter. The man with the spear. The brave provider. You've seen him 1,000 times in documentaries and cartoons. He runs, he throws, he kills, he eats. But the data tells a completely different story. Anthropologists who study modern hunter-gatherer tribes have found something surprising. Meat is a luxury. It's rare. It's special. And it's not what keeps people alive most days. In fact, for the majority of human history, meat was a side dish at best. The main course was something far more humble. You need to meet the real heroes of human evolution. They don't carry spears. They carry baskets. They are the gatherers. Women, children, and older members of the group who spent hours every day collecting the foods that actually sustained the species. Roots, tubers, nuts, seeds, fruits, and berries. Plant foods. You've heard the term hunter-gatherer your whole life. But you've probably never noticed that the gatherer part comes first for a reason. Gathering is reliable. Hunting is a gamble. Think about it like this. A hunter can spend all day tracking an animal and come back with nothing. That's a whole day of calories wasted. A gatherer, on the other hand, spends the same time picking wild yams and comes back with a guaranteed meal. Every single time. So who was really feeding the tribe? Research by anthropologists like Dr. Richard Wrangham at Harvard University has completely changed how we understand the ancestral diet. Wrangham's work focuses on something you use every single day. You don't even think about it. You just do it. It's the most important technological advancement in human history. And it's not the wheel. It's fire. Before fire, eating was a full-time job. You spent all your waking hours chewing. No, seriously. Compare your jaw to a chimpanzee's. A chimp's jaw is massive, packed with huge muscles that anchor all the way up to the top of its skull. It has to be. Because chimps eat raw plant matter all day long. Leaves, fruits, hard nuts. They chew and chew and chew. It takes them up to 6 hours a day just to get enough calories. That's 6 hours. You spend maybe 30 minutes eating every day. Why the difference? Because you cook your food. And that changes everything. Dr. Wrangham's research argues that cooking was the catalyst that made us human. When you cook food, you break down its cell walls. You make the nutrients more available and easier to digest. You kill pathogens. And you unlock massive amounts of energy that would otherwise stay locked away inside raw plants. A raw potato is barely edible. A cooked potato is pure fuel. The same is true for meat, roots, and grains. Fire externalized the digestive process. Your stomach doesn't have to work as hard. Your intestines don't have to be as long. That freed up massive amounts of energy for the one organ that demands more than any other. Your brain. You have a brain that consumes about 20% of your daily calories. That's huge. For other primates, the brain uses less than 10%. So how did you get that extra 10%? You stole it from your gut. Cooking reduced the size of your digestive tract over evolutionary time. That saved energy. And that energy went straight to your growing brain. You literally cooked your way to intelligence. But here's where it gets stranger. The diet of ancient humans wasn't just about getting calories. It was about getting the right kind of calories. And the balance was entirely dependent on where you lived. If your ancestors lived near the coast, they ate a lot of seafood. Shellfish, fish, marine mammals. The archaeological record shows piles of discarded shells, called middens, that are tens of thousands of years old. These were the ancient equivalent of trash piles. And they show us exactly what was on the menu. Oysters, clams, mussels. A coastal ancient human had a diet packed with omega-3 fatty acids, the building blocks of brain tissue. But if your ancestors lived inland, far from the coast, their diet was very different. It was heavy on plant foods. Wild grains, seeds, tubers, and seasonal fruits. And whatever meat they could manage to bring down. Small game mostly. Rabbits, birds, tortoises. The giant mammoth hunts you see in movies probably happened a handful of times a year. They were celebrations. Feasts. Not daily routine. Most days, your ancestors were eating the equivalent of a salad bar. Mixed with bugs. Yes, bugs. Insects were a staple protein source. It's estimated that over 2 billion people still eat insects today. Why? Because they're everywhere. They're easy to catch. And they're packed with protein and fat. Ancient humans would knock over termite mounds and scoop up the insects inside. They'd harvest grubs from rotting logs. They'd eat grasshoppers and caterpillars. You might find that disgusting. But your ancestors found it delicious. And it kept them alive when the hunt failed. Now let's talk about a specific group of ancient humans. The Neanderthals. You've probably heard of them. You may have even seen the museum reconstructions. They were stocky, barrel-chested, with heavy brow ridges. They lived in Europe and Asia during the Ice Age. And their diet was radically different from the tropical diets of our African ancestors. Neanderthals were apex predators. They ate mostly meat. Protein made up nearly 80% of their diet. They hunted large game like woolly mammoths, woolly rhinos, and giant deer. But they didn't just hunt them. They lived right alongside these beasts. They wore their hides. They used their bones for tools. And they ate every single part of the animal. Marrow, brains, tongue, organs. But here's the twist. The Neanderthals didn't survive. We did. So why did a high-protein diet fail them? It didn't fail them directly. But their extreme specialization made them vulnerable. When the megafauna went extinct at the end of the Ice Age, the Neanderthals lost their food source. They couldn't adapt. They couldn't shift to eating more plants because their bodies were not built for it. But your ancestors, Homo sapiens, were different. We were generalists. We could eat anything. We could eat meat when it was abundant. We could eat plants when meat was scarce. We could eat seafood, bugs, nuts, tubers. We could migrate. We could adapt. And that is exactly why you are here today. You have a stomach that can digest both steak and a bowl of oatmeal. That's the superpower. That's the evolutionary advantage. It's called dietary flexibility. And it allowed you to colonize the entire planet. Every environment. Every climate. Every food source. But there's another piece to this puzzle. Something you've never considered. Something that changes the story entirely. It's not just about what your ancestors ate. It's about what ate them. Do you realize that for most of human history, you were not at the top of the food chain? You were prey. Big cats, wolves, hyenas, bears. They hunted you. They ate you. And your ancestors had to stay alert at all times. This constant threat shaped your psychology. It shaped your fear of the dark. It shaped your anxiety. The feeling that something is watching you when you're alone at night. That's a million-year-old memory. And it directly influenced your diet because it made you a social animal above all else. You ate together. You shared food. The anthropologist Dr. Lorna Marshall studied the Kung people of the Kalahari Desert in the 1950s. These are modern hunter-gatherers. And she discovered something remarkable. In Kung culture, there is a practice called insulting the meat. When a hunter brings back an animal, the rest of the group criticizes him. They say the meat is too thin, too tough, too small. They make fun of his hunting skills. And Marshall couldn't understand why. Why would you insult someone who just fed you? Because of the sharing ritual. If a hunter brings back a giant animal, he might get arrogant. He might think he's better than others. That threatens the social cohesion of the group. So the group humbles him. They mock him. And then they share the meat equally among everyone. No one goes hungry. No one eats more than anyone else. Meat was a social equalizer. It was shared, celebrated, and distributed according to rules that kept the community strong. Now, let's fast forward to the most recent stage of the human diet. The agricultural revolution. About 12,000 years ago, humans began to settle down. They started planting crops. Wheat, barley, rice, maize. This was the single most transformative change in human history since fire. You could now produce your own food. You didn't have to wander. You could build permanent homes. You could store grain for the winter. And you could grow. Population exploded. But you also lost something. Variety. If you look at the average diet of a modern human, it's built around just 3 crops. Wheat, rice, and corn. That's it. The vast majority of your daily calories come from these 3 plants. Your ancient ancestors ate hundreds of different species of plants over the course of a year. Hundreds. You eat maybe 15. You have a narrower diet than a chimpanzee. And that comes with costs. Nutritional deficiencies. Dental problems. Bone density loss. The agricultural revolution gave you stability, but it also gave you starvation. When a single crop fails, you fail. Your ancestors moved to the next valley. You go to the grocery store. And if the truck stopped coming for 3 days, you panic. So what does this all mean for you, right now, sitting in your comfortable chair? It means that every food choice you make is a shadow of a million-year legacy. Your cravings are ancient. Your brain is wired to seek out fat and sugar because those were rare in the ancestral environment. When your ancestors found a honeycomb, they ate the entire thing. They had to. It was a jackpot of calories. Now you do the same thing with a bag of chips. And your body doesn't know the difference. It's reacting to the same ancient programming. And that program is still running. It's running in your gut. In your brain. In your deep limbic system. You are a hunter-gatherer wearing sneakers and carrying a smartphone. Your stomach is optimized for unpredictable periods of feast and famine. Your metabolism can swing wildly based on what you eat. And your digestive system is still trying to process foods that didn't exist 1,000 years ago. White bread, refined sugar, processed oil. Your body doesn't know what to do with them. So it stores them. It stores everything. Just in case the next winter lasts forever. But the winter never comes. And you just keep eating. Dr. Boyd Eaton, an evolutionary nutritionist, called this the discordance hypothesis. The idea that your body is mismatched with your modern environment. Your genes haven't changed much since the Paleolithic era. But your diet has changed completely. That mismatch is why you have heart disease. That mismatch is why you have diabetes. That mismatch is why you feel tired and foggy after a meal. Your body wasn't built for the Western diet. It was built for wild plants, lean game, and the occasional honey jackpot. But here is the most important thing you need to understand. The human diet is not a recipe. It's not a single menu. It's a map of survival. Your ancestors ate different foods in every single region of the world. The Inuit of the Arctic ate almost nothing but meat and fat. They had no plants for most of the year. The Hadza of Tanzania eat a massive variety of tubers, berries, and hunted meat. The Cavemen of Bolivia eat mostly fish and plantains. And all of them survived. All of them thrived. There is no one perfect diet. There is only one rule. Eat food. Real food. Not too much. Mostly plants. That's the ancient truth. That's the wisdom you inherited. Your ancestors didn't count calories. They didn't worry about macros. They ate what was available. They ate seasonally. They ate locally. They ate slowly. And they ate together. Those habits kept you alive for millions of years. And they can keep you alive today. So the next time you sit down to eat, think about the fire. Think about the basket. Think about the hands that gathered, the teeth that ground, and the guts that transformed raw nature into pure life. You are the product of that ancient feast. And everything you eat is a continuation of the longest story ever told. Now close your eyes for 1 second. Imagine the sun going down. The fire crackling. The tribe sitting in a circle. A child hands you a roasted yam. Warm. Sweet. Simple. That's not just dinner. That's everything you ever were. That's the meal that built your brain, your culture, your civilization. That's the first meal. And you're still eating it.